Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. At Acasis, innovation drives us. Since 2008, we've been creating cutting-edge technology products that make your life easier. With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit Acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com. Unlock a world of convenience with Mully Box, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. From gourmet snacks to unique finds, each box is tailored to your tastes. Experience the joy of surprises. Subscribe today at mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hello Hello, and welcome on into another episode of The Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, Zach Burke, keeping us on the air from behind the glass, as he does 5 days a week, live on YouTube, as we are every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today, we will talk Bruins. We're going to take a little trip in the time machine to an event that you all remember, but we're going to show you how that 2015 draft is still hurting the Bruins today, 10 years later, and will continue for the next few years as well. We will also talk about the greatest college basketball calls of all time. We're getting fun in the summer. We did college football a few weeks ago. We will do pro sports as well. Just a little way to switch it up. Me and myself and Zach Burke. We'll get into that. But we start where we start, and that is with the Bruins. That is with the thumbnail. And let's take a trip back down memory lane, because this is a topic that I actually didn't want to discuss for a long time, because I'm kind of like, we get it. We get it now. But with this still happening 10 years later with Don Sweeney, like, to see his origin story play out in that 2015 NHL draft, to me is worth revisiting, because I think the Bruins are still paying for those mistakes 10 years later. And this did not have to be any kind of a rebuild at this point if the Bruins had handled this right, and of course had handled some of their other drafts correctly after this. But it all starts here, and that's where we start today. Let's do it, shall we? 10 years ago, the Boston Bruins pulled off the unthinkable at the NHL draft, and not the good kind of unthinkable. They set up a historic situation where they had 3 straight picks in the first round, but instead of propelling them into hockey's next dynasty, what they did was pulled off hockey's biggest joke. These three guys, really these 4, including Don Sweeney, are what will be remembered. This is a lasting image in Bruins history for all the wrong reasons. It's time we revisit the 2015 NHL draft and show not only how bad it was for the Bruins at the time, but how it became the worst draft mistake in the history of the league, and why the Bruins are still paying for it 10 years later. This 2015 NHL draft was the origin story for a tenure that Bruins fans are already wanting to forget. This was the Wayne family getting robbed and shot outside the theater while Bruce Wayne watched by. Just watched it happen. Our Batman is Don Sweeney. Peter Chiarelli was hired by Boston back in 2006. We got to take a step back to take a step forward, because I'm so fascinated by the Chiarelli era. Okay, he comes into the Bruins in 2006, which was not a great time for the franchise, and they finally did something new. They went outside the organization. They went outside the family to get him from Ottawa. And it was like basically the first time in their history they'd ever done that. And it worked. Okay, he built the Stanley Cup team. He went out and got Savard. He got Zdeno Chara. He built around some of the young players they already had, like Krejci and Bergeron, and, well, not Andrew Raycroft, but he flipped him for Tuukka Rask. And all of a sudden, he's building a contender. They win the Stanley Cup for the first time in 39 years in 2011, and he's overseeing one of the great eras in Boston Bruins history. That said, by the end of his tenure in the mid-2010s, we're starting to kind of see the signs of Chiarelli's unraveling that really showed themselves in his next stop in Edmonton. The multi-year contracts, the bevy of no-trade clauses for these bottom 6 players. Does it sound familiar? I'll bet it does. So after missing the playoffs for the first time in 8 years, Chiarelli was fired in 2015, and the Bruins, ever afraid to go outside the family, don't want to make that mistake again. They hire his assistant, and suddenly, Bruins legend's a strong word, Don Sweeney is now the GM of the Bruins. Even though it had just worked for them to go outside the family, they thought, nope, we're not doing that again. Cam Neely's picking his buddy that he would go down the corners with. And now he's the GM. So the Bruins get the 14th pick in the draft, as you do for just missing the playoffs. And kind of instantly, Don Sweeney starts moving and shaking. Okay. He trades a Bruins fan favorite, Milan Lucic, to LA for their first round pick, which is 13th overall. Now, all of a sudden, the Bruins got back-to-back picks. And then he does something even more bold. He trades the future of their defense core, Dougie Hamilton, who looks like a terrific puck-moving defenseman, one heck of a big two-way franchise kind of defenseman. While he's an RFA, trades him to Calgary and gets the number 15 pick in return. So now it has all fallen into place. The Bruins have 3 straight picks in the first round to rebuild their Stanley Cup window on the fly. There's only 2 problems with that. The first problem is this. The Bruins missed the playoffs that year with 96 points. They're one of the few teams in the history of the league who have ever gotten 95 points and did not make the postseason. They were not a bad team. They didn't need 3 first-round picks to rebuild instead of just keeping Dougie Hamilton and having him be a part of the future. Now, the hindsight's 2020. It's not like Dougie Hamilton's had this dazzling career. But if he's playing alongside the guys he would have played alongside in Boston, maybe it does turn out to be a little bit better. The second problem is this. Don Sweeney can't evaluate talent. Don Sweeney can't build a roster. We know that now. We just didn't know that yet. But the good news for Bruins fans is this. This draft was loaded. McDavid, Eichel, Marner, Werenski, Rantanen, all taken in the top 10 before the Bruins had a chance to pick each of their first 3 picks. So we already know this is loaded with talent. Some of it's off the board, still quite a bit of NHL talent still left on the board. And then it happened. Instead of going with the number 13 prospect in Bob McKenzie's draft, mock draft, which is usually the most accurate. So instead of going with the number 13 prospect of Bob McKenzie's draft, Kyle Connor, and his 582 points in the NHL 10 years later, they went with defenseman Jakub Zboril. Now, what's interesting about this is of the 3 picks, this was the most on the board the Bruins picked with. McKenzie had Kyle Connor going 13, which is the selection here. But he actually had Zboril going 14, the original Bruins pick. So this was kind of there. It wasn't crazy. But I would say if they wanted the strong puck-moving defenseman they were clearly looking for with that pick, they could have drafted Thomas Chabot, who was still on the board. You've heard of him. You haven't heard of Jakub Zboril outside of this context. Because Zboril only ends up playing 16 career NHL games with 1 goal. A top 15 pick who barely played 15 games in the league. Yeah, he's playing in the Czech Republic now. Can you believe that? Jakub Zboril, first major miss, never made an impact with the big team. In fact, didn't even play a game for the Bruins before Zdeno Chara left 5 years after his draft. So if this was going to be the future of your D-core, you missed. Chara continued to play on your team for 5 more years. Dougie Hamilton is still playing in the league. Thomas Chabot is in his prime, still playing in the league. Jakub Zboril is playing in the Czech Republic. Swing and a miss on lucky pick number 13. At number 14, this is where the Don Sweeney-ness starts. Because at number 14, the Bruins do go well off the board at this point, and they pick Jake DeBrusk. Now, obviously, this one looks okay, right? We know Jake DeBrusk, but you got to stick with me here. He's projected to go 28th by Bob McKenzie. So again, that's a considerable margin. He was supposed to be taking 14 picks after he did. And with a talent-laden draft like this, that's a huge mistake. So this was the first instance, not only of Don Sweeney going off the board, but going off the board specifically for a guy with perceived physicality, a guy who could be perceived as a future power forward rather than going with the guys who have the guaranteed skill, the guaranteed talent, for whatever that guarantee is, pick number 14. Okay, Jake DeBrusk's dad, obviously major league tough guy in the NHL. And look, Jake was a good player for the Bruins, right? He hit the 25 goal mark 3 times in his career with the team and was a consistent forward for them on some good teams. Played decently in the playoffs, could play on your second power play unit. But in that draft, at number 14, that's a big miss. That's a big miss. And you look at what he could have done for this team in the future, had he been alongside maybe someone like a Kyle Connor instead, and things start to look way, way different. So Jake DeBrusk, good NHL player. Don't get me wrong. Could he be frustrating at times with the Bruins? Sure, he could. And he's probably deserving of being a first-round pick. And in a redraft, he's probably somewhere between 15 and 20. But that is how loaded this first round was. And somehow it's going to get worse. Because pick number 15 is where it goes completely 100% off the rails for the Boston Bruins and solidifies it as the worst first round any team has ever had at the NHL Draft. With pick number 15, the Bruins select Zach Senyshyn. And the air comes out of the place in Florida. Who? Zach Senyshyn? Projected to go somewhere between 40 and 55? And he's picked 15th. A mid-second round pick going 15th overall. You traded Dougie Hamilton when you didn't even need to. He's an RFA. You traded Dougie Hamilton as an RFA so you could get Zach Senyshyn in the draft. This was way, way off the board. Like, this was the 15th overall pick equivalent to Beckett Seneca. Nobody saw this coming. And Senyshyn's career shows exactly why it was way off the board. He comes from the OHL for the Sioux Greyhounds off like a 40-something point season. It's not like he was lighting up the OHL. He really wasn't. He had some upside, but a lot of work to do. That's why he was projected to go in the 40s, not 15th. Like Zaboral, Zach Senyshyn only played 16 games in his NHL career. Recorded 3 points, scored 1 NHL goal on an empty net, which is more than you or I will ever score in the NHL, but he never scored a National Hockey League goal with a goalie in the frame, with somebody trying to stop it. And that's what you got out of Zach Senyshyn. 2 of these players are completely out of the NHL 10 years later. And the one who is still active, Jake DeBrusk, set a career high in goals this year. The only problem is he did it with the Vancouver Canucks, while the Bruins were out here sitting at 28th in the league in goals scored and finishing in 15th place in the Eastern Conference. One of those guys worked out, and he was doing it for another team. What happens when you go off the board, though, in a loaded draft? You miss out. And Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins missed out. After the Bruins' 3 straight picks, the other NHL teams just thanked Don Sweeney for his stupidity, and they went on and picked Mathew Barzal, Kyle Connor, Thomas Chabot, Joel Eriksson-Ek, and Travis Konechny, all in the first round. After 3 straight picks, the Islanders are thinking, oh my God, Barzal is still there. And they pick him. And that's just in the first round. Because in the second round, roughly 10 or 12 spots before Zach Senyshyn was slated to go, the Hurricanes picked Sebastian Aho. To make it even worse, the Bruins drafted Brandon Carlo in the second round. Now, that's not the part that makes it worse. Brandon Carlo was a solid pick for them, right? But to make it even worse, in that second round, the Bruins drafted defenseman Jeremy Lauzon. 1 pick before the Flames, whose second round pick the Bruins just used to pick Jeremy Lauzon from the Dougie Hamilton trade. The Flames, 1 pick later, picked Rasmus Andersson. Who would you rather have on your blue line? Jeremy Lauzon or Rasmus Andersson? You can't write this shit, man. And now, 10 years later, the Bruins are still suffering because of this. Their core aged out, and they had nowhere to go because Don Sweeney's drafts continued to suck. And all the while, the Bees have had one of the worst prospects pool in the NHL for the last decade. And while that's happening, the Winnipeg Jets have built a legit Stanley Cup contender around Kyle Connor. The Hurricanes have done the same around Sebastian Aho. And you've been passed in your own division by Ottawa, whose blue line is built around Thomas Chabot. All guys you could have had. All of them. And we think over the years, think of all those Bruins teams that needed a little bit more secondary scoring to get them over the top. Every year, that's what they were looking for. And they supposedly had one the whole time in Jake DeBrusk, a guy they picked again over Kyle Connor. And so because of that, they had to trade even more draft capital to get guys like Rick Nash and Tyler Bertuzzi, first-round picks out the door. Do you think they would have been better off with Jake DeBrusk scoring goals or Mathew Barzal scoring goals? Do you think Sebastian Aho might have been a good understudy for Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci? It's something to think about. The Bruins are still paying for this. And now, just a few months ago, we've got Cam Neely making up an excuse a decade later for Don about how Sweeney had just gotten the job. What do you expect? He just got the job. He was promoted. He was the assistant general manager. This draft sunk the Bruins ship. You didn't see it right away because they were still good. They still had that core that was either drafted or locked down or signed and locked down by Peter Chiarelli, not by Don Sweeney. The guy can't evaluate talent, has not been able to. And Peter Chiarelli actually left them quite a gift the year before he was fired. He picked David Pastrnak 25th overall. But then when that core ages out, that Bergeron, that Krejci, that Chara, that Tuukka, that Marchand, you're left with what Don Sweeney got you. And that's Johnny Beecher, Jeremy Swayman, and the Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov. That's what this gets you. It all started on that June night in 2015. This sunk the Bruins ship, and they won't even admit it. They won't even admit that they fucked it up. What is kind of funny, though, looking at how loaded that top 10 was, I mentioned the guys earlier, right? McDavid, Eichel, Marner, Rantanen, Werenski. And through it all, the Bruins actually did get one of the top 10 picks from that draft. Crazily enough, there's a guy on their roster right now who was a top 10 pick in that year's draft. Nope, it's not one of the other guys like Timo Meier. It's not Ivan Provorov. It's not Noah Hanifin. It's the number 6 pick, Pavel Zacha. Pavel Zacha is the only one. Literally, you look at all the rest of the top 10 and all of them but save the defenseman have more career points than Pavel Zacha. Actually, yeah, all of them. McDavid, Eichel, Dylan Strome, who's finally breaking out, Mitch Marner, Hanifin, Provorov, Werenski, Meier, Rantanen, and right in the middle there is Pavel Zacha. Nice player, but come on. That's where it all started. This image right here. It was one of the first that Don Sweeney even took as the GM of the Boston Bruins, and that is going to be the one that we remember forever. That's the downfall right there. I know it's 10 years later. A lot has happened. But in some other drafts, this might be even more excusable. Some other drafts, but not this one. Not when Barzal and Chabot and Kyle Connor and Sebastian Aho, not when all those guys are still on the board. Travis Konechny. Think of how much different these Bruins teams would have been with some of those guys instead. But nope, that's not what we got. We got Jakub Zboril, Zach Senyshyn. Oh, God. And even Jake DeBrusk, who gets caught in the shrapnel of this. He's a decent NHL player. He probably, and if that guy was picked 28th, you'd feel pretty good about that. Pretty good about his career. He wasn't, though. He's picked 14th in a loaded draft when there were so many guys still on the board. It's crazy. There's going to be like 5 Hall of Famers in this first round. McDavid's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Eichel's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Marner's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Rantanen's going to go to the Hall of Fame, probably. Kyle Connor will put up a career like that, starting to put up a career like that. Zach Werenski is starting to put up a career like that. Brock Besser, by the way, was also taken in that first round, 23rd. Brock Besser, a guy who I wanted them to go and get this year. You're just always, every time we look at something bad happening with the Bruins and looking at their prospect pool and looking at the future, it all comes back. It all comes back to this night in Florida, which is some sort of ironic because of where that franchise was 10 years ago and how they've completely surpassed you and have rubbed your face in it the last couple of years. That's where that draft was, 2015. That has really severely damaged the Bruins franchise for a decade and will continue for a couple more years at least until someone can fix this prospect pool. And I say someone because it's Don Sweeney or somebody else. To me, it's the worst draft any team has had in NHL history. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Am I overblowing this, or is this really that bad a draft? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're coming at you live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. So check out the other videos on the channel, talking everything going on with the Bruins, Red Sox, everything else in the world of Boston sports. So you don't have to go to EEI. You don't have to go to the Sports Hub. Your alternative is right here. And we're actually talking Boston sports every single weekday. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. Oh, man. I don't like going backwards like that. But again, everywhere I look, it comes back to that 2015 draft. If you had just hit on one of those guys that you didn't try, like all you needed to do was just not go completely off the board. If you don't go completely off the board, you're getting some combination of Connor and Barzal. Like that is hugely different to just have one of those guys 10 years later. Connor. But yeah, one of those guys 10 years later. And I've looked at the mock drafts, by the way. The Bob McKenzie one is the one I go with the most. I think he is really, really the best when it comes to this. And what's funny is the Bruins actually did do a great pick in the second round. Brandon Carlo was slotted to go 22nd overall, and he fell to 34, I think, to the Bruins, where they had Jack Roslovich, which okay. But you look at, man, nobody had Zach Senyshyn in the first round. Nobody had him there. And if it were Bob McKenzie's draft that the Bruins actually went by, it would have been Kyle Connor, Jakub Zboril, and Travis Konechny. And we can live with that. We can really, truly live with that. We can live with the Zboril crap if the other two turned out to be Kyle Connor and Travis Konechny. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The craziest had to have been Senyshyn, for sure. He had Chabot going 25th. He had Eriksson Ek going in the right spot at 23. A player I love, by the way, Joel Eriksson Ek. I would take him on my team in a second. I think he's such a good player that's still a little bit underrated. But, yeah, just bad. They also picked Jacob Forsbacka-Karlsson in that second round. BU Terrier. Boy, did that work out for him. Anyway, again, let me know what you think about that draft in the comment section below. Is it the worst draft? Is it the worst first round any team's ever had? Let me know in the comment section below, and then like and subscribe. Guys, we're so close to 4,000 subscribers. We need your help in getting there, and telling the origin story of our great villain, Don Sweeney, is how I will get there. Coming up next, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Zach and I, we love our play-by-play broadcasters. We started this series last week. We are going through the greatest calls in sports history. college basketball. Coming up next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Did you know nearly all stock price changes of 10% or more result from a single news headline? These news catalysts create trading opportunities every day. All you need is a little help to reach out and take them. It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
OsleyMD.com. I've always had thin hair my whole life. It breaks off at a certain length. In the last 6 months, I've noticed it just really bad. I mean, you could totally see it. I wear a hat a lot. I tried several different products. My experience with the Bosley MD hair regrowth kit was amazing. It was easy to use. It let me take off my hat. I could go in public and have my picture taken and feel normal again. OsleyMD.com.
And now, back to our show.
We are back to the show, The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Zach Burke is alongside myself, Cam Stewart, where we are doing our summer series, The Greatest Calls in Sports History. Zach is feeling it right now.
I am.
Yeah.
I don't
Crazy,
have the
I
camera
can hear
stuck
him.
there. Oh, you can?
Yeah. Good to see Pete back in the building. But
Yeah.
we have done this. So, Zach, we did college football. We actually did it with Pete. I'll get Pete in on another one because he is an ESPN play-by-play broadcaster. So I should get him in on some of these other ones. I know he's going to be kind of pissy that I didn't put him in on a college basketball one. I know that's what he likes. So I don't know about you, Zach, but I find basketball in general to be the toughest one to find like really great calls.
I was kind of with you there because some of these, as I was going back and when you brought it up to me last night, at first I did what I do with football and I let my mind just kind of think of what plays like resonate with me and what ones do I remember. And then I like to go back and just kind of like watch compilations to be like, oh, I forgot about that one. Or, the thing that I found with basketball for some reason, at least me more so than football, was that some of the moments, while they were big moments and great moments, the call itself isn't as good.
Correct.
Like, I think back to the NC State, like Houston game, like a tremendous finish to it, but the call is like, oh, it's a dunk. And they went like,
it was, Wittenberg. Oh, it's a long way.
It's nothing like, I'm not trying to take away from it, but it doesn't kind of like, I guess basketball to me felt like it needed a little bit more of the spectacle at times with some of it, of like letting it breathe.
Yeah.
Doesn't work the same way. So I found like some clips seemed to speak to me more than others did, but yeah, it was a little bit tougher.
And like you kind of need really like a buzzer beater to do it the way you would in other sports. Like touchdown, there's a celebration, right? Baseball, home run, you're just running the bases. But here it's like, okay, you score and then you're right back. Like, here it is. You could have one of the great moments in NCAA history, but if you hit the bucket with 3 seconds left instead of 0, then you don't get the emotional call.
No,
so,
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
right.
But I was going to say, like, that's one of the things is that I have, so of my 2 clips, and I'm not going to give too much away, but it kind of lends to one of that, of it's not a buzzer beater. And so it was one of those where the emotion you got was for what happened. And then there's another call at the end that kind of like cements it that I think other people do. But I went with the one before it because of it. Also, I just wanted to ask to you on this, is looking at it, is did you find yourself going, I think I found myself reliving my glory days of when I was the biggest of my college basketball fandom, which was right as I was getting out of high school into like my early years of college. So both of my calls are within like from 06 to 010. And like, to me, 010, that is the sweet spot. I could tell you it's before that, actually. I just did that just as a random number, but I didn't want to give them away fully, but I'm just saying, like, it, to me, the calls, I think, fit me more with like just how much I was into college basketball at the time too.
Gotcha. I respect that. Weirdly, mine are both outside. One was before I was born, which I know will shock you that I'm pulling something from before I was even born.
That was me last time. All right.
And the other, I mean, I guess the other one's right in my wheelhouse still. My biggest was like middle school. That's when I was so into, like, I didn't miss a Duke game. I watched every single game they played. I knew the score of all of them. I put out the scores on Facebook. Nobody cared. I was so into it all. And not that I wasn't in high school or college, but I just like, I was like living and dying with
this
Duke
is still
with the ball in the fucking hoop.
This is still post JJ though, right?
Yes. I mean, JJ's kind of what got me into it. JJ Redick's my favorite.
Because I will be honest, as a college basketball fan, then the JJ Redick and those Duke teams were some of my most hated Duke teams.
I'm sure.
Dude,
I'm sure.
They were just so good.
Yeah. All right, let's do yours. Let's get your first one in here.
So I went back and
you've
forth.
Been teasing.
I have. I'm going to go with the one that's not as over the top for the first one, because I went back and forth, and I think that as I went and gave that whole diatribe of how I felt like some of these basketball moments needed that extra pizzazz to it, I'm going to save the one with the most for the end. What I am going to do is instead focus on one from 2008, and it's a national championship game between
Mario Chalmers.
I cut it off. I just
love have arms to shoot a basketball in the fourth quarter.
I just love Jim Nance's easy at the end, because I have it here. I'll just let it play. It's 22 seconds.
Kansas has made only 2 threes on the night. They must make one here to extend the game. Collins driving, almost lost the handle. Chalmers for the tie. Got it with 2 seconds. Unbelievable. Dozier at midcourt for the championship. No, we're going to overtime in San Antonio.
I just love that call.
Good.
We're going to overtime in San Antonio. He let it. After I talk about, there's a way to talk, let it set up, and still describe it all perfectly. And Chalmers, out of everybody, as he said, I think it's part of the situation. They only hit 2 threes. I think
that's a really great part of it. Is he knows clearly he's reading it during the free throws in the biggest moment of his broadcast season at that point. Not to prop up Jim Nance too much, but he's like, okay. And nowadays, with 9 seconds left, they'd be like, well, they're going to foul. But back then, when men were men and basketball was basketball, you'd say, yeah, they need a 3 here, because you need 3 points to get to overtime. You're not playing 2 possessions in 10 seconds. Yeah, that's great. That's great anticipation of, look, they've only hit 2 all night. They got to do it here.
And there's nobody, like, I went and I watched a lot of compilations then to figure this out. And like, Jim Nance is a guy who's just perfect at that too.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing. And he has
Michaels. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I teased a little bit when I said 2010. I love the end of the Butler, like where he's able to get the shot off at half court and he's like, oh, and it almost went in. Like, and it's just
that is sneaky good, because like he's clearly riding with the emotion. So that I should have put that one in here, to be honest. It's not like one of the greatest Christmas calls, but it's one of those that I said about the Boise State one a couple weeks ago, last week, where you're all feeling it in real time. And I don't mind when a broadcaster does that, even though it's got the shelf life of about a half a second. And that's what he says. Almost went in. It almost went in. Yeah, and like, Duke is the king of the dance. 2010.
It's him coming to like the realization with everybody else watching. It's like he's with you, and then it just didn't happen, but he still takes you. Oh, it's great. Yeah, no, I love Jim.
Oh, it almost went in. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good first one. And what a friggin' moment that was, too.
Yeah.
Jesus. It was a boring bracket, though. That was 4-1
very
team
much
in the
so.
Final Four. The
Very
last time
much
it happened before this year. Okay, I'm going to take you back to around roughly that same time. But we're going to go ESPN regular season. How about that? This is from, I want to say 2011. 11 because there's a player that will give it away. But you'll know that it was 2011, December of 2011 going into the 2011-2012 season. This one is known for me and my friends more for the meme that comes out of it. But it is also a great call by a couple of guys.
Jones. Watford for the win. Yes! Yes!
That look, that look on Crean's face.
That Tom Crean look. Man, we used to give that to each other all the time. And I actually, last year covering Baylor in the NCAA tournament, they were in Memphis and Tom Crean was one of the commentators. I literally walked by him one day outside the arena and I just had to tell him, I was like, man, I know you people like talk about this to you a lot, but my friends and I in high school, we just used to do that all the time. That Tom Crean look, but that is good Dickie V. And there's not much of that anymore. If we're being totally honest, I'm kind of like, it's kind of tired. But unbelievable.
I love it.
And then can't believe it, is just great. That's the emotion in that plays.
No, I absolutely love it. There was it's funny because.
Oh, you didn't see it in the clip, by the way, but I was referencing later on in the video, you see Anthony Davis. That's how you know.
Yeah, I was about to say it's Kentucky. He's on Kentucky at the time, right?
Yeah. Who won that game 75-70? If you watch the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's true.
On ESPN.
It's kind of hard to tell with so much, maroon running on the But that's the thing is there are some great regular season calls, and I did find some coming. I think there was one. I want to say it might have been from the 80s. It was a North Carolina game against Oklahoma or somebody. Maybe it was later. I don't know. There's some random calls that I came across. But for me, I hated that. But it just felt like the bigger the stage, like the grander the call. And so both of mine are from tournament games. My other one is from 2006. And I thought about going George Mason for a little bit. I thought about
George, the dream is alive.
I did. That was in serious contention. And then I just remember us talking a little bit last week on the football one of how he might have been hanging on to that one. He's like, if George Mason wins, I'm dropping a buy George line. Yeah, and that's fine.
And there is one of those I was kind of looking for, which is it was again Nance, and Nance at his douchiest. But when UConn beat Duke in '99, it was a huge upset in the championship game. It was UConn's first title. Duke was 37-1 going into that game. Elton Brand, Player of the Year, and I can't find it anywhere, but there's some point, I think it's closing out the broadcast itself, not the game. But Jim Nantz says something like, you can't, you can, UConn. And it's like so dumb. But I really wanted to find it. I couldn't find it.
Oh, that's great. The other one I thought about too, that I gave serious attention to was, and I'm trying to remember, I feel like it was a Butler game. But it was about the slipper still fits is another just great
Zaga.
line. It's Zaga. Sorry.
Which is also 99, actually.
Is it the 99? Okay.
Yeah, it's Gus.
For some reason, I thought it was 2000.
But slipper still fits. It might have been 2000.
But I did go.
It could be Florida.
Yeah, I did go. It was.
2000, Florida made it to the Final Four.
That because they had the close call against Butler with the Mike Miller. Yeah.
That's
yeah. So Mike Miller and those Florida teams. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shit. Where was I going with this? I got lost. Anyway, no. It's on me. So I looked at all those and I thought about those and considered those. I went with another Gonzaga one instead. And it wasn't even the more recent one where it was the Suggs 3 where he like goes and stands on the table afterwards.
Yes, that's a good one.
Which might be Jim Nantz too. I think
it is Jim Nantz. Yep. The perfect season is on go.
I went with a guy who is very familiar with where we broadcast here from the Alico building because he worked here for a while before he went off to go, not like at the Alico, but in the city here before he went off. Yeah. To become a great broadcaster himself. And I mentioned him briefly for a different reason with football, but that is one Gus Johnson. And no, I want to take you back to 2006.
In Waco, by the way. I didn't know
Channel 25. Yeah.
Wow. When, like 30 years ago? 40 years ago?
Yeah, probably like back before J-Mo was the voice of the Bears. But still, I was a kid, but yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ro.
Lived there for 10 years. I didn't know that.
Robert Flores, Gus Johnson.
I knew about RoFlo.
It's just
and
it's
the guy,
a hotbed.
Jemai Webster, who's the Red Sox sideline reporter.
That's
to bring it back
true.
to Boston sports. He worked at 25. Interesting. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Let's
anyway,
do some
so yeah, and so there's another thing that adds to it in this, and it was a season that this UCLA team that I'll just explain the game for a bit that adds to it.
Yeah.
UCLA at the end of the first quarter with about 3:18 left is down by 17 to Gonzaga. They're down at halftime by 13 in a Sweet 16 game that everybody thinks it's just kind of a given that, all right, Gonzaga, if they don't, let off the gas, they should have this game. And UCLA ends up with one of the greatest comebacks. And I was not cheering for either of these teams because this UCLA team knocked out Michigan State in the first round by like 2 points. But still, it leads to, I love just Gus Johnson's call here of just setting up and the sad face of Adam Morrison.
They throw it to Morrison. He holds on.
Well, you don't want to foul Morrison. You make him get it over half court. You know you got to foul.
And a steal! Farmer! Inside! The freshman up! Oh, and they go in front! Rivio! Last chance to dance over Unbelievable! Oh, what a game! Unbelievable! What a game! UCLA! Unbelievable! Are you kidding me? After being down by 17, Heartbreak City.
I love the Heartbreak City.
To dance.
Oh, it's so good. Like, it's so
By the way,
good.
great pass by Farmar.
Yes.
It's kind of an inch perfect pass for Laker
Corey
legend
Brewer.
Jordan Farmar.
I hated that UCLA team, but still, they're solid there.
They didn't win it all, so
nah, it's fine. No, they lost to here. This was just the season of teams I hated because it's Joakim Noah's Florida team.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But there's another call then later after they win it all where Gus loses it even more that I think people also remember. But just the Heartbreak City with the camera zooming in on Morris, it's so it just encapsulates it so
Morrison crying before the game's even over.
Yes.
Game's not even over yet.
Yeah. Well, I've heard Pete tell some stories, so I don't know. This kind of seems all fitting for the guy.
Adam Morrison just cries. He just
I should say not just Pete. I don't want it to feel like I've made the rounds on some basketball podcasts where I get to hear some stories about Adam Morrison when he was with the Bobcats. So
co-player of the year that year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Who was the other one? Hold on.
We've already talked about him.
Was it in 06? Was it Noah? Brewer? Who in 06?
Shooter, ACC.
JJ was gone by 06, though.
06, senior year.
Was it? No.
Yeah. JJ Redd.
Pete had it. I was in disbelief.
Pete's a college basketball guy. He's a junkie, man. He gets it. Okay, last one. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be surprised with what team we're going with, with what we're going with next. I'm gonna actually put it in the present mode here, if that's okay, Zach, so we can react to this one
sure.
Live, real time. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm Christian Laettner. 1992, Duke, Kentucky. Kentucky's up by 1. Christian's got the ball. 2 seconds left. He shoots a beautiful turnaround jumper.
Off the glass!
Gets his own rebound. Loose ball! Laettner goes straight to goal! Get them! Duke wins game of the century! And that's the way it happened!
Almost.
That's great, man. I know that doesn't count,
that.
but that's great.
No, I love that.
Off the glass.
They do a really good job of just showcasing how much of a menace he was down there for that 10 seconds to get that game-winning shot off.
Yeah, who could forget that? I guess I should do the actual one. I should do the actual one. I'm going with the Duke radio call, which I used to perform in middle school for my friends. I never ended up charging.
I don't know if I've heard the radio call, actually.
This was like my vaudeville show. Just a lot less racist. Here it is.
Early up the floor with Laettner. They throw it to the left of the floor. Laettner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Laettner has hit the bucket at the buzzer. The Blue Devils win it, 104-103. Look out, Minneapolis! Here come the Blue Devils.
Oh yeah!
Oh.
And just knowing how much America hated to see that. Oh, doctor. Yeah, I used to do that like word for word, man, all the time.
Well, I don't want to
Game of the century, the actual game of the century. That's probably still the greatest college basketball game ever.
Okay. No,
The moment, the context, both shots at the end. Although I will say, people don't remember this, but Leitner, the year before, had a buzzer beater against UConn in the Sweet 16 that was arguably tougher. He was like, he caught it on the side. He was like falling away to the side rather than straight on. I think he shoots like off 1 foot. It's kind of a crazy shot. I mean, can I just for a second, I know I've talked about him on the show before, but like the ball's on Christian Leitner, man. He won't quite get remembered the way he should by other generations because he was, I guess, a bust in the NBA. He played a long time in the NBA, but was he an effective player? Not really. He was an all-star one time. He had a decent NBA career. But I mean, one of the 10 greatest college basketball players ever. His record and his clutchness. I mean, 4 Final Fours, 2 national championships. The guy was a machine. And this was his crowning moment.
No, absolutely. It's, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of gone, at least here recently, it feels like, are those players that end up being just like great college players that, I mean, well, there are players that don't translate to the league, obviously, but gone are the days of where there's a guy that like, that's his program for like 3-4 years and he's dominant there. And then for some reason,
brings people to the gym
exactly
year after year.
I mean, when was the last time we had an athlete like that? I think now, and I get it, it's a completely different animal that the game's evolved to, of where if you have the skills, you make the jump. Like there's no
right.
I don't know.
I would say though, like kind of, I think what you're getting to is like we don't have like a box office draw anymore. Like Leitner, we just talked about, is one of the all-time greats, but we're talking about JJ Redick, man. There's no more polarizing player in college basketball than JJ Redick. He's the best player in basketball on the best and most hated program in college basketball. And like, that was a guy worth the price of admission. And he was for 3 years, Adam Morrison to a lesser degree, he played at Gonzaga, but same thing. He was a great player for 4 years.
But is it just as simple as that? Is it's the length there? Like, I think
it is, man. I do. Like, I just think of the last couple like national championship teams and I'm like, who were the box office guys? Like, you had some great players, don't get me wrong. But, like, Donovan Clingan, good player. Was he the guy? Walter Clayton, heck of a player. Was in his 4th year. I think only his 1st or 2nd at Florida. But, like, it wasn't a guy who was you knew was coming back or, like, you know what I mean? He wasn't there for 2 to 3 seasons with the continuity. Even that Baylor team of 2021, it was a great team. It was one of the great teams of this century. And they did have some guys that stayed 2 years, 3 years. But I'm talking about like the guy who makes a couple of All-American teams. It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's just not the same way. And I don't know, maybe this is me just growing away from the game myself. It could absolutely be it. But it doesn't feel like there's that kind of buzz around college basketball anymore because the rivalries just aren't quite the same because the players don't carry over. And it's just, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not the same.
No, I would completely agree with you there. Like I know running the risk of Abe Simpson, old man, yelling at clouds meme, but still it seems to, you bring up those rivalries with it changing and ever changing face. Guys aren't there long enough besides like, we play North Carolina twice a year. It's not like, and I know we're talking about those 90s, but with, those teams of where Grant Hill and Christian Leitner were there for their entire careers, or we move forward of like, you got these where it was the same guys playing each other twice a year for 3 years, 4 years. And that rivalry built not only just because it was between the teams, but it came between the players then too.
Right.
And that is gone.
Because like overall, it's just, I do think it just kind of boils down to the college basketball season, all told, is fairly short in terms of you getting to know these players. Like the best players in college basketball year in, year out now are guys who stay for 1 year. And I know, again, old man yelling at cloud, but it's like, I think back to like the 90s and you could go into a college basketball season knowing about Grant Hill and Glenn Robinson and all these, you would know that these, because they played here the last 2 years, and he's coming back for another. And it's easier to follow the sport that way. And it's just not like that anymore. Again, what are you going to do? I think the NBA should have got rid of that rule a long time ago, the 1 year rule. And
I think on another thing we can talk about it. I know
2 or 3.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going to add this last point and then I'll get out because I know we're close on time. But just the more thinking about it makes me think. I think honestly, this switch, and maybe this is just my opinion, but the more of the one and dones honestly kind of showed the inadequacies in certain NBA front offices of being able to project talent more. Like, I think of them not being able to have, 3-4 years of data showed you the front offices and the teams that have been bad at, player progression for a while.
Because now we see these guys who are top 10 recruits who do stay for 1 year and probably wouldn't have done that if that wasn't the rule. And then they get picked 22nd and they don't really have an NBA career. I think, again, we kind of gotten off the topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, like, I know some coaches have suggested it. I don't understand why we can't do that. Why we can't make it like the NFL. Maybe it's 2 years rather than 3 years. But say, you know what? We just got enough of this crap. There's enough talent evaluation going around in high school basketball that you should be able to know whether you're about to make the jump. And it wasn't like 20 guys were doing it every year.
No,
it was a handful.
And the ones that got picked for the most part were the Kevin Garnetts, were the LeBron Jameses, were the Jermaine O'Neal, who had careers that would warrant them getting picked there. Everybody wants to bring up Sebastian Telfair, but those are they're there because they happen minimally, for the most part. Some people took chances, but you're right. You should be able to see that talent in the year. Well, Gilbert Arenas did a lot of problems there too, but
yeah, and he's the somewhere in between. Gilbert Arenas is the guy that makes it somewhere in between for these guys. Anyway, that's the factor in there. Anyway, Zach. Thank you for hopping on. We will do some more next week of the greatest calls in sports history. Thank you guys for making this a part of your routine today. We're live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Talking Boston sports, and emphasis maybe sometimes on the sports, as we just did here. We will see you tomorrow on another edition of a little ditty that we like to call The Cam Show.
Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. Sains, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Committed to excellence, we adopt a user-centric approach guided by ergonomics and medical science. With a team of seasoned professionals in R&D, design, and manufacturing, we prioritize quality across our entire product line. Visit twosains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.